BERSERK has been, for many years, a staple in manga and its anime series. Set in a medieval Europe-inspired dark fantasy world, the story centers on the character Guts, a lone swordsman whose mortal power has scaled to almost being godlike. But what if I tell you there are more characters stronger than Guts? Join us as we uncover BERSERK's most powerful characters. Without further ado, let me welcome you to the Sci-Punk feed. First on our list is the main protagonist, Guts. Guts may be the strongest non-demon character in BERSERK. That being said, he's certainly not the strongest in the series. Even though that is true, Guts has managed to hold off against the likes of Grunwald and even forced him to transform into his original form. He certainly wouldn't have won in their fight as he was still adjusting to the Berserker armor and reeling from his injury from Slan. Many speculate that Guts would win if he was healthy, but it's a hard call to make if the battle goes at length, based on their feats so far. There's enough of a gap between the two that Grunwald would defeat Guts. Speaking of the devil, our next character is Grunwald. Among all the lieutenants in Griffith's army, Grunwald may be the strongest. There's no doubt that Grunwald has the most impressive feats out of all of them. While base Grunwald has been able to fight somewhat on par with BERSERK Guts, it didn't seem like he'd win. Grunwald's apostle state quickly changed that. While Berserker Guts was able to leave some scratches, he was easily tossed around and dispatched by Grunwald. One of Grunwald's strikes broke a few bones in Guts' body as well, making the scale slightly tilt in the favor of Grunwald as things stood between them. Comparing Grunwald to the other apostles with his insane feats of strength and battle experience, it's hard to knock him off as just some giant with an edge due to his size. One must acknowledge Grunwald's skill and tactical prowess. The next on our list is Zod the Immortal. Zod is the strongest apostle under Griffith. He's the commander of the others, acting as the leader, and that alone is a testament to his strength if the likes of Grunwald respect him. Zod is a reoccurring rival to Guts, completely overwhelming him in every single encounter. He was able to take several lightning strikes from Ganishka. To top it all off, Zod destroyed a mine by rushing into it, not even accounting for all of Zod's combat experience as he's been walking on battlefields for hundreds of years. Zod is arguably on par with the great Skull Knight himself, as the two have been fighting for years. Our next character is, you guessed it, Skull Knight. Outside the Apostles, there's the mysterious Skull Knight. Skull Knight has been fighting with Zod for many years. Skull Knight himself is around 200 years old, and he spends most of his time taking down demons and challenging God Hand. It's hard to say if he's close to the strength of either of the members of God Hand, but he's certainly above most apostles aside from Zod. Skull Knight doesn't have too many feats, and some that could be looked at with greater scrutiny, such as his ability to stop the eclipse by destroying the moon. At the very least, someone can say Skull Knight is skilled enough to still be around despite all of the obstacles that he's faced for centuries. Our next strong character in this series is the Sea God. The Sea God is only powerful due to size. It was a massive force but still had some conventional weaknesses. The fact that Guts had defeated it puts the Sea God in a weird place. Based on power and size alone, it is stronger than the likes of normal apostles, Guts, Lieutenant Zod, and Skull Knight. Defeating the Sea God just isn't a simple task, and by way of that, should be acknowledged as one of the strongest entities in BERSERK. Under the right circumstances, the Sea God could defeat most of the characters aside from Shiva Ganishka. Next on our list is Emperor Ganishka. Ganishka was a fairly formidable foe on his own. At base, he was able to evade attacks from Irvine and was a feared military leader as the Emperor of the Kashan Empire. In his true form, he was a threat to the likes of Zod and Berserker armor Guts, who needed to work together to fight him. His true form is even hard to deal with by most of the series' roster, as he's mostly made of mist. Gashinka even destroyed an entire city on his own, able to shoot off massive fireballs and amass armies of pseudo-apostles to his feet. Shiva Ganishka was simply just an overwhelming force that required a member of God Hand to finally get rid of him. The last on our list is the all-powerful God Hand. Members of the God Hand are powerful. Characters like Femto and Slan have had some encounters with characters like Guts and Skull Knight, but there's no definitive scale, and these encounters weren't great displays. Femto was simply tossing around base Guts and there wasn't much of a fight. And when Guts encountered Slan, it was a proxy of the woman, and while she did almost kill Guts, it's not much to draw from. What can be gathered from statements made by the story is that they are undoubtedly the strongest demon kind since every other apostle fears them and their powers. Femto does have some notable feats such as creating a city, reality warping apostles like Zod, and seeming to casually deal with Shiva Ganishka, but there's not much to say about the others. For these 5, Berserk makes it very clear that no one compares to Godhand. So, who do you think are the strongest characters in Berserk? Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe for more theories and info. This has been your host. Welcome to the SciPunk feed.